and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. This is a really exciting episode for me. I'm delighted to introduce you to two companies who you've seen on the show before, but coming together to do some really, really exciting stuff. Velox and Valantic FSA have been doing some incredible things over the last couple of years. Delighted to bring onto the show Andy Browning for the first time, and welcome back, Jon Butler. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you, Toby.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Look, as I've said before, that this is the height of innovation. You guys have been doing some incredible things over the last couple of years, and bringing you both together is even more exciting. We're going to unpack loads of that. We're going to talk about some work you guys are doing together, how you can help solve a number of the different problems that we're seeing out in the industry at the moment, and why it works so well as a union. But before we do that, Jon, give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and Velox.
For those that don't already know, as you know, the Velox founders actually been working together for almost 20 years. We have our anniversary coming up. Our claim to fame, or certainly where we cut our teeth, was when we were part of the, very fortunate to be part of the leadership team that transformed Goldman Sachs Equities into an industry-leading, electronic trading franchise. It was during this period that, in capital markets and in front office, the technology went from being a real nice to have to a business imperative. And I think, we kind of moved into this phase where constant innovation was required to keep up, with the technology arms race. Rapidly, the bottleneck soon became developer productivity. And you had like the top firms, Credit Suisse were obviously driving at the time, everybody's trying to outdo each other. And so, Velox is really founded from kind of the realization during that period that it was the lack of specialized tools that was really making the development of data-driven high-performance systems much slower, much more expensive, and frankly, just really not as good as it should have been. And so 5 years ago we had the chance to create the company, and it's been really exciting building those products and helping clients, and seeing clients put those products to work and experience the developer productivity benefits.
I think that's so important, isn't it? What you just say there about recognizing from the internal factor about how frustrating various things can be, and just some of the words you've mentioned there. I think is so important about increasing the productivity of developers, about just improving that overall user experience. I think has been something that's really stood out for how you guys have taken it further forward and grown and solving real problems, which I think is great. Andy, over at Valantic as well, there's some incredible stuff happening. We've spoken before about it being a business that's a sort of a startup in a really established a form as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the Valantic story.
So I guess, for me, I joined Valantic in June last year. I've come on board to run the electronic trading business here. To describe, I guess, Valantic FSA in a sentence is we're providing smart automation solutions for capital markets. And a number of the things that I talk to with our client base is very similar to some of the things that talks to as well, as will become apparent as we talk about our partnership. But kind of like some of the key things, and the mission for us is really to address three main areas. Like the first is around strategic agility of our clients. So just as you were talking about, developer speed and those types of things, it's really helping our clients to change at pace, either by us helping them directly or by providing them with the tools and frameworks to be able to do that themselves. Change is always hard with legacy platforms, and we want to be able to be basically enable change or be the change agent for them. The second thing is focusing on data centricity and ensuring that data and information is the backbone of value creation, rather than the systems and applications that kind of create, consume, or modify it. You'll hear a lot from us talking around data centricity, and again, as we talk to our client base, it's key to our strategy. I think then the final thing is, it's not new, it's total cost of ownership. I think that taking the focus away from just looking at the cost of a software application and actually looking at all of the associated costs of running an e-trading platform is key, and it's something that we're trying to address with our client base as well.
So right in the core of what people are looking for in that area at the moment. It's really interesting that the things you're talking about there are the things I hear time and time again that the market's looking for and needing, and that's an exciting thing. So there's two businesses there that to me are right. As I said beforehand, are solving the issues that need to be solved. Talk to us about how the two firms have come together and how you're working together. Jon, do you want to kick off on that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, for Velox, it's really, business as usual. Technology providers are really one of our biggest client segments. And I think I remember the first conversation we had with Joachim Lauterbach, the CEO, and from that first day, for that first call, it was really, really clear that there was just a massive kind of synergy between the two companies. Yeah, we really never looked back from that point. So very, very, very natural. We've always, and we've obviously got a bit of experience now over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think it was just always, it was always felt meant to be with Valantic that we'd be working together. It's just such a good fit.
That's brilliant. And Andy, I know that you traditionally Valantic and FSA have always been on the lookout for the next technologies and such. Like, tell us a little bit about how you see the partnership.
Well, that's completely right. So strategic investments, basically, it's a core part of our strategy. And so as we're on the lookout, for complementary businesses, potentially for acquisition or for investment, we also look for like next gen technologies that want to partner with us and work with us. So as Jon said, Jon had the conversation with Joachim a while back now, and we thought, okay, well, let's have a look at the framework. Let's give it a good going over, a thorough testing, and seeing how it could work within our fixed income components or within that ecosystem. And actually, it became clear extremely quickly that the data centric approach that Velox provides, and the incremental approach to systems deployment that it uses could actually help us really speed up our ability to bring new products to market. And so I think from that perspective, as Jon said before, it was the ideal fit.
Jon, you mentioned, and you just mentioned data centricity. I know that's always been very key to to Velox as well. That's a defining factor for you too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, right? So when we started out with Velox, given our background as equities, we thought we'd be doing predominantly equities-based stuff, but in reality, fixed income has really kind of dominated, right? And I think it's been really good for us to see how our technology and how our approach actually fits, just really well within fixed income. And I think fixed income is very similar to kind of where equities was kind of 10, 15 years ago, and it's just going through it like 3 times speed. And so they have, and the core of it is really, this around data set monetization of data. Actually, on the fixed income side, it's a much more data driven business. It's much more analytical, and kind of bespoke analytics, and so it fits really well because as the markets are going electronic, as the fixed income businesses are trying to be more automated, they've got to solve this data centricity issue. They've got to figure out how to kind of rejoin together different different data segments so they can aggregate, analyze, and act on it. So yeah, it's been really good being able to with Valantic being able to see really make some progress and help those fixed income businesses, progress.
I think that progress is really important, isn't it? Because we speak a lot about data, and it's been sort of mot du jour for a decade, really. But I still think it's been one of those things that's dramatically underserved in the financial services space. And so to see things there where you can look at genuine data centricity in its truest sense and get the value that it should be creating, it does in other sectors. We've spoken about this before, Jon. I know it is something I think is really, really refreshing. So let's look at this partnership. Andy, you've spoken a little bit before about the various different options and such like. I know you're looking at this in sort of 3 forms. Tell us a little bit about how that works out and what it means.
Okay, yeah. So I guess first and foremost, I think the thing that we were most excited about over and above using the framework is we've made a financial investment into Velox itself, providing us with certain rights of use of the framework and also an influence on Velox's product direction, which for us was super key. I mean, ultimately, we think the Velox framework is extremely cool. It works exceptionally well and complements our product set superbly. So for us, it made complete sense to try and get that a level of exclusivity so that, you know, we could provide something different to the fixed income markets. I think secondly, again, we're actively using the framework to build on top of our existing product set. So sometimes in a complementary fashion, sometimes to actually enhance what we have. And again, the fact that it's a low-code development platform allows us to build things quickly. It's been, again, extremely useful. And then finally, again, an important part of our business strategy is we're setting up a custom solutions division that will leverage the Velox framework to help really help firms pay down on technical debt and help them modernize their legacy systems. So focusing on some of the other legacy platforms out there which maybe aren't really doing much for their client base, we can potentially help them out there.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And like you say, you can see where that synergy comes from. Jon, talk to us a little about your view of that. Exciting stuff for Velox, right?
Yeah. No, obviously we're delighted. I think I think I'll expand a little bit on Andy's last point around solutions, right? So I think we both see the market is moving away from the traditional kind of choices of buy only or build only to this kind of buy and build mix. There's a lot of opportunity for what we call kind of bespoke builds. Velox is great as a core piece of technology to accelerate the build of data-driven high-performance systems. But if you can partner that with firms that have really solid business components, then it's a really, really powerful thing in terms of kind of how quickly we can then work with clients to put together, not just off the shelf products, but kind of bespoke solutions that really fit their needs. And the fixed income space, I mean, we couldn't have done any better than Valantic, right? So I mean, they've been a lot of their trading componentry, they've been evolving for over 20 years. And so, they have a fantastic track record in Europe with major trading houses. And, so partnering that expertise and that level of mature trading building blocks is really very exciting.
And I think
absolutely.
Oh, sorry, I talked over there, but I just think one thing to add to that around the buy and build piece is specifically buy and build has been around for a certain amount of time, and it's been a messaging that the market's probably heard before. But I think the difference this time around is around speed. Again, it's around the expedited build. It's the fact that you can buy componentry but also build things extremely quickly, which in legacy platforms using an API would take an extended amount of time.
Yeah.
Time is always one of those sort of critical factors in financial markets, right? And just when we talk about making things easier, speed is going to be the essence. And I think that's sort of you mentioned it before, Andy. I know this is sort of like the very crux of the excitement around Velox is the low code framework for developers. Jon, tell us a little bit about your thoughts there.
Sure. So. And it really follows on nicely from what we were just talking about, right? To Andy's point, right? I mean, I think the difference today of buy versus build versus historically is we now have better tools that simplify the development process. So when you are trying to do that build, it's much easier to do it, right? And irrespective of whether you're the actual vendor or whether you're with the end client. So Velox is a completely new approach. So transcends traditional application development tools and techniques. The 10 times acceleration it can provide development teams it's a game changer for firms who are really trying to kind of innovate faster in what's now becoming this kind of data-driven economy. Low code is kind of interesting though, right? I mean, the recent surge in interest from VCs, I think, has really hijacked the term and kind of pushed it into this citizen developer only mode, where
it's got very trendy, hasn't it?
It's got very trendy, yeah, and it's all about and that trend has been about, you know, simplifying the development process so anybody can do it, you know, and there's a place for that, right? But if you take a step back, what's the real problem that's being solved? You know, it's really about this developer shortage. You know, there's so much demand out there, so much need for development work. There's just not enough developers. Given the inefficiencies, there's just not enough developers to solve that. And you know, creating more developers by allowing users to build their own apps is definitely going to help, has a role to play. But it's really tackling that, what we think of as the symptom of the problem and not the underlying cause. So Velox is really about tackling that underlying root cause, right? Which is the productivity of the incumbent development teams. You know, the science behind it is really pretty simple, right? Which is in 2022, capital markets firms should just absolutely not be wasting time on low-level core infrastructure. You know, and what do we mean by low-level infrastructure? It's, you know, wrangling disconnected real-time, you know, real-time and static data sources, standing up scalable, testable, supportable backends, finessing bespoke visual components, you know, followed by more business-facing aspects like, you know, wrestling with complex entitlements, configuration management, you know, and this is just the implementation. You know, the cost pales in comparison to the internal design debate on where and how a piece of functionality should be added. I mean, building this stuff is just incredibly expensive and incredibly hard. And also within a lot of firms, this then gets duplicated because the things they build is you know, it's hard to share across teams and departments, right? So Velox is all about tackling, giving our clients the ability to buy that. Well, we call that the core. You know, so we you know, and we have a saying which is like, we core so our clients can build faster. You know, and it's all based around this kind of philosophy that, you know, we really got to start with the individual, with the actual professional developers. They're the ones that are driving. They're the ones that we need to focus on. They're the ones that we need to get more productive. You know, that's really where businesses will get the most productivity gains over the next 2 to 3 years.
Productivity is so important, isn't it? I think people are recognizing that there's, you know, that there's numerous arms races, as you've spoken about, in terms of, you know, headcount or whatever, you know, whatever the various bits and pieces might be. But I think people are getting onto the fact that productivity is the core of every single thing. You want to get your you know, you want to squeeze the lemon as much as you can in every single aspect. Andy, that's something which you echo, I presume, about the significance of productivity.
Well, yeah, completely. I think Jon's spoken quite a lot to the point, and there's pretty very little that I can add over and above what he's already said. But, you know, clearly we're looking to get exponential productivity gains for any given amount of developer effort that we invest. And then, you know, off the back of it, you know, us as an organization and also clients, you know, for them, it means that we can deliver really relevant products faster. And ultimately, it means that the return on investment, again, both for us and for our clients, it comes quicker. So,
tell me about, you touched on about the sort of products that you can you know, create from that. What will be the first products that we see, you know, coming from Valantic, you know, using this approach?
Okay, so we're kicking off. We're actually just about to go live with a client on our full repo trading solution. That covers the full dealer to customer flows. There's been a lot of interest in the dealer to customer markets, especially in the repo space, and it's a growing area right now, and we recognise that, and that's where we put our first efforts. You know, we're also at the moment enhancing our cross-asset sales trader workflow. And then after that, we'll be focusing on building additional functionality on top of our credits and rates market making solutions. There are other pieces that we're also looking at right now, whether it's in equities market making, ETF market making, and, you know, it's a case of using the Velox framework. We are going to get these things to market a lot quicker.
And Jon, I know you're already starting to speak to your customer base around this as well, and see similar sort of opportunities as well, I presume.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think I have much more to add than on what Andy said. I mean, I think you know, I think repo clearly is an area, and you know, what I was saying before about fixed income. You know, repo is an area that's really at the front of the kind of drive to go electronic. So it makes sense to go there first. I think that you know, but it's yeah, it's really Valantic that's driving, you know, that's driving the agenda on kind of which products they tackle first. So.
Yeah, and coming nicely together. So look, when you talk about this sort of stuff, look, innovation's been at the core of you know, what we've seen over the last couple of years has been dramatic increase in what people are able to do, and the thoughts and the process where you suddenly see this massive tidal wave of potential innovation and things that people can use in the space. Sometimes when you look at that, you think, right, there's loads of ideas coming through. Which ones are actually adoptable, and which ones are the market ready for? That's got to be significant when you go into market. It's got to be significant questions which people are talking about. Someone said it to me recently about, you know, am I in the unicycle sales business, or you know, is there something here where? And what I took from that was, you know, am I selling stuff before people are ready, and the, you know, the product's actually exactly where it needs to be. Right. Tell me a little bit about you know, this, and Jon, whether the market's ready for the innovation you're talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of different points that I would make there. What we are, you know, necessity is the mother of all invention, right? You know, capital, as I've spoken about before, you know, capital markets needs to modernize, and you know, its biggest, you know, capital markets, I would argue the biggest technology challenge it faces is the shortfall in app dev capacity at a time when we're seeing really a generational shift towards cap markets being a software-driven industry, you know, and predictions like software is eating the world, data is the new oil, you know, they've all turned out to be true. And now every business needs to become data-driven. Everybody, and that all just puts more pressure on software, right? There's so much software that exists. Capital markets, there's so much more software that needs to be built. You know, another way to think about it is capital markets is a generational shift, right? From being a people-orientated business to a software-driven one. Tackling that with inefficient development teams is like, you know, mining coal with a table knife. Yeah. You know, there's no choice but to adopt new tools. And, you know, and it has been a struggle, right? For the last 20 years, application development teams have struggled to be truly inefficient. It's a bit of a silent killer. It's hard to measure, it's hard to detect, so it goes unnoticed. But it's not their fault, right? So just despite all the tech innovation in the last 20 years, the way these types of, you know, high performance data-driven systems get built really hasn't changed. There hasn't really been that much new stuff out there in terms of tooling. So I think it's, you know, this type of innovation is long overdue. And I think it's, you know, I think timing is everything in this case. And I think that, yeah, the time is now. And I think, you know, I think you can, you know, it's been great to see the progress that other people in our space have made, you know, Beacon, Genesis. I mean, it's just really fantastic to see the growth of those businesses, the interest in the VC and strategic equity firms. You know, I think it's not something we've seen over the last 20 years, but I think it's indicative of what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years in capital markets. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I've also got my favourite quote of our conversation so far with a picture of mining coal with a table knife, very much embedded in my head at the moment. Andy,
don't embed the knife in your head. Right.
Yeah, I'll try to avoid that. Andy, I know that there'll be a fair amount of research that you've done into this as well with regards to the investment. Talk about how market ready, or the market's ready for this as well.
Yeah, so I think that you're going back to your question about whether they're ready. So it's not really about whether they're ready. It's actually the market are asking for it. And as we go and speak to the participants in the market, the messaging and our approach and our approach aligned with Velox is resonating very much with everyone we speak to. There's a number of issues that are happening right now, and a lot of people in the market I think are concerned about really the shrinking pool of vendors in the space. There's a number of very small players, but then there's also been a lot of consolidation in the space as well. Yeah. And what's happened with that consolidation, it leads to asymmetries in price negotiations. It gives some of these legacy vendors little or no incentive to actually innovate or invest in their platforms or client support, two of the things which clearly are super important. And when you look at what are the rationale, the reason why a client's going to move from one platform to another, there's a number of different reasons why they'll do it. But I think one thing that's pretty evident nowadays is that clients, they don't just want to swap one legacy vendor's kit out for another for no real functional gain. Maybe they've had problems in the past with contractuals, maybe they've had problems in the past with client support, but really you move to another vendor, you need to get real functional gain and up your capabilities. And they want to, whether it's injecting their own IP or leveraging existing building blocks, but taking advantage of a data-centric architecture. These are the types of things that we think they want right now. And again, they just want to do this quickly. They want to do it with speed because change is hard sometimes, and also it can be slow. And so, we want to do everything we can to actually drive it more.
I think that's a really good point, Andy, right? Which is, if I could just jump in, I don't know, I haven't kept track of how many valantic client calls I've joined, but we've there's been a lot over the last 12 to 18 months, and it's been incredibly validating, the response that we get from clients, right? Because that's really where the rubber hits the road, right? If people are looking at you in the face or over Zoom as like, it sounds like a great story, guys, but that's just not what we're focused on right now, then we probably wouldn't be sitting there having this conversation. But there's just been overwhelming response from clients that we're that we're working on the right stuff. So
I mean, that's as you say, that's the key, isn't it? When you've got that validation, and I think that's where so many companies fall down, that they sort of push through that lack of validation to keep on saying they're right until they're proved that they're wrong, right? And I think if you're sat there and you've developed and had those conversations and are hearing that from the marketplace, that's where it's so important. Jon, you mentioned beforehand, the scale of interest in this space and other people who are existing within it. That there is more and more innovation coming into it. People are seeing more things happening in the space. Talk to me a little bit about how this valantic Velox solution, union, marriage, whichever way we want to call it, differs from the existing products out there in the marketplace at the moment.
I think that and it's probably it'd be want to be interested to hear what Andy has to say on this, but just the partnership in of itself, what we're talking to you about here today, I think is really a real differentiator. As I said, it was when we had the original conversations with Joachim, it was almost like, wow, this is just a time, because timing is so, to have two companies complement each other and be at the right time to be able to go and do something like this, it's really, really, really a unique opportunity. And I think the people that we're competing with and the other products, I think, are all great products. But I think we've been very fortuitous that the two companies complement each other so well, and we can combine that real heritage, that real expertise, and 20 years of business experience of trading from Valantic with this innovative kind of modern approach to application development. And I think based on what we've all been just talking about, I think that's just exactly what the market needs right now. So I mean, I think the partnership is really what I would draw out.
Andy, you echo that?
Yeah, no, again, I agree. We're partners.
I concur.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, similar themes. Like we want to release new functionality to people quickly. We want to help people update their existing legacy systems. We as an organization, we are building out new business lines, or we're building on top of existing business lines. We could talk about the benefits of browser-based technologies and user interfaces, and we could probably run a whole session on that. These are things which other people aren't doing, and something that's now core to what we're doing. The ability to integrate multiple external data sources into the Valantic platform ecosystem, to be able to aggregate that data and review it in different ways. Again, not something that other people are really doing. So, our partnership with Velox ultimately allows us to do all of these things, a number of other things as well. But still sitting on what is on top of a really solid, robust, ultimately award-winning technology stack, which is kind of, again, really the reason why we find ourselves where we are now, partnering with Velox.
I love that. I love the fact of just how exciting. I'm sort of sat here as you're both talking, thinking, I wish I had a tech team that I could bring in for you to solve it, because it's kind of the thing you want to get drawn into and just get involved in. I want to finish on where I've always tried to get this program sorted, which is looking at it from the people who are listening, the people's eyes and ears who are listening to this and thinking, right, I'm having these issues. The companies who I'm talking to are always looking at specific areas which they're solving. You've kind of touched on it as we've been going through here, but Jon, talk to us about the type of problems that you guys are specifically solving at the moment and are able to help with.
Sure, yeah, and actually, I think it's a good point, right? So I think, and I've talked about this before on your show, Toby. I think that vendor technology in the past, and talking about this from my past life of sitting on the other side of the fence, has always come at you with great solutions to problems that they perceive that you have, and it's always difficult to know. There's always there's some things that are good about that, some things that are bad, and it makes it very hard to use vendor technology, or it has done over the years. And so I think what we're doing is kind of turning that on its head a little bit, and our approach is much more based on solving problems that the clients say they have, right? So as Andy kind of alluded to, it's delivering technology that's much more adaptable to a client's environment, and adaptable to a point where they can actually make those changes themselves. Adaptable in the sense that it can integrate incredibly well with their existing systems and their existing desktop. I think that's really the the core thing. It's really being led by it's not a point solution anymore. What we're delivering is the point solution, but then a lot around that actually goes a long way to helping clients solve the fundamental broader workflow issues that they're also dealing with.
Yeah. At the risk of having an I concur, anything you'd add there, Andy?
I concur. So the smart the smart look. I mean, as we said, look, our job at Valantic FSA is really we provide smart automation of workflows in capital markets. Across a number of different asset classes in a number of different ways and products. Ultimately, we look to help our clients by addressing the problems that they have right now with their existing legacy systems, by again assisting them to build around on top of them, or also with providing our own systems, our own building blocks, and then being able to use the framework and other pieces to again augment and address particular workflows which are manual, which we can automate using the tools. So I mean, that's fundamentally why we're here, and that's to again automation of those workflows.
Love that. And so, people listening to this at the moment, and who should be reaching out to you? How do they reach out to you? And how are people going to take advantage of this incredible position that you guys are creating at the moment?
So anyone who wants to basically automate any of their workflows, front, middle office, we cover everything. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us through our website, which is valantic.com/FSA. Or again, I'm more than happy for people to reach out directly to me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Jon, anything to add to that?
No, likewise, and we are Velox and Valantic as a partnership, so we're constantly bringing each other into different client opportunities. So I just add to Andy's workflow point that anybody that needs to build faster or innovate faster, the usual channels, LinkedIn, our website, and would be delighted to have a chat and see how we can help.
Superb. Guys, like I said before, genuinely, I think it's tremendously exciting. I love this sector because I love the innovation that's in it, and I love things that are happening that are new and transformative and really making a difference. I think everything that I'm hearing about today is something that just pushes towards that. It ticks all the boxes of what I hear people looking for day after day at the moment, and I think it's in exactly the right area. So I wish you nothing other than the best luck. Not I think you'll need it when you're answering the right problems. Luck seems to follow. So congratulations on it. I look forward to hearing loads more about the union in the not too distant future. Anything you guys want to finish up with?
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
Thanks, Toby.
Thanks, Toby. Yeah, let's
Fantastic.
catch up again soon.